Alright, welcome to Tololoche 101, where we're going to go over all the basic stuff that you need to learn so that you can start playing Tololoche in whatever song that you want without a tutorial, in the very simplest way. Get all of the basics out so that we can learn how to play and start playing all of our favorite songs on Tololoche. So we're going to go through some of the basics like the strings, the tuning, how to mark your fretboard, how to play the simple root and fifth combo, how to play the root in the octave, how to do our different slap patterns, and some of the stuff that can get us started so that we can start to play. I have a point of view here so you can see my right hand on the fretboard, and you can see my tuner, which shows the notes that my strings are tuned to. So you can see there that this one is tuned to E, and we'll get to that in a second. But you'll see I have markings here on the fretboard that help me see where those tonos are at, and that's what we're going to need: a clip-on tuner or a very accurate tuner that you have maybe on your phone that can tell you the precise tonos that we need so that we can mark them. And we're going to go over how to understand the order of the music notes so that we can find whatever note we need going up each open string, and we're going to learn how to play the root, the fifth, and that's basically all we need to play along with any song. If there's no tutorial for a song on Tololoche, but there are guitar chords out there, or you can match up a note to the chord someone is playing, then all you got to do is play that root and the fifth wherever it can be found. And I'll explain how we do that and what that relationship looks like. So let's get straight into it. So I'm running Celine contrabajo, nylon, and silk strings at the moment. There's silk in the middle and they're wrapped in nylon, and they have a really nice clicky sound, and they're also nice and full because of the silk. So these are the strings that I'm running at the moment, and they're supposed to be tuned in E. So what that means is that my lowest string is an E, or mi in Spanish, and my second string is going to be la, then I'm going to have re, then I'm going to have sol. So E, A, D, G, same exact thing as an electric bass, an acoustic bass, an upright bass in standard. That's going to be one of the most common tunings that you're going to see on Tololoche. Now, if you have another type of nylon string, that you might have them tuned in A. So the lowest string is actually going to be A, and we're going to have A, D, G, and C. That's what's called La tuning. I'm going to switch the strings that tune like that in a second. I'm going to change them, and I'm going to edit the video and show you what they sound like and what they look like. But the way you play them are the exact same. As long as your strings are tuned in fourths apart, and that means each note is 4 apart. From E to A, we have E, F, G, A. From A to D, A, B, C, D, etc. As long as you're tuned in fourths, which are what most stringed instruments are tuned to for the most part, basses, bajo quintos, the first 4 strings of a guitar, all tuned in fourths. That's what's going to give us these universal shapes and universal patterns that help us to play the root and the fifth where it's always found, or over here, or the octave, which we'll get to in a second. But that's all you got to understand, and you just have to understand that when we play those open notes, as you can see my tuner's telling me, that string is an E note. This open string is an A note. This open string is a D note. It's a little bit out of tune, as you can see. Sometimes it sounds in tune, sometimes it doesn't. Nylon strings are a bit iffy when it comes to intonation, but it's pretty much there. I can adjust it some more. And then we have G, or sol, would be my last string. And so what that means is that after I play that open string, any note that I fret past that is going to increase in pitch, and it's going to sound higher. It's going to be the next letter or the next tono that comes next. So after E, we have F. And every single note is going to have a sharp after it, except for B and E. B and E don't have sharps. That's just how it be. That's what I tell all my students. And in Spanish, it's mi and si. I tell people they're missing sostenidos. Mi and si are missing sostenidos. So when you play mi open, this thickest string here, and then you go to the first spot, you should have an F. And this is where we're going to need a chromatic tuner to tell us where that F is found. Because if I'm too far back, then it's still going to be a sharp E, right? So I want to keep going until I find that F. And once I'm right in the middle and I'm getting that green F, that's where I'm going to mark my zone with a marker, with a sticker, whatever. And that's how you know right there, whenever you press down, that's going to give you an F. Now you're going to keep going until you come to the next note, which is going to be F sharp. So keep looking on your tuner. As you can see right here, I got F sharp here on my second line, where my finger is on the second line. And this is what you're going to do to find all of those notes. You're going to keep going until your next note, G, comes up, because G comes after F. Once you got that and it's coming up on your tuner, you mark it. Put a piece of tape or draw a line. Go to the next one. It would be G sharp. Keep going to A. Once you got A, you really only need 5 markings, because after A, we go to our next open string, A. And so anything we want to play past A, we don't want to go too far down the neck. You can't really get too far down and it doesn't sound too good. So once you get to A, if you want to play A sharp or anything past that, play it on your open A string. A. On the first marking, we're going to have that A sharp. On the second marking is going to be B. On the next marking will be C, because remember, B doesn't have a sharp. And then the next marking would be C sharp. And since you already marked them for the other string, they're still going to work, and it's going to be the next tono on the next string down. You don't have to mark a new spot. They're all going to be in line with each other if the strings are in tune. So you see I have my C sharp right here. Keep going, I'm going to have D. Same thing. I can keep going past D, but there's no need, because I can go to my open D string. My open D string is next, so then I would have D sharp, then I would have E, and then I would have F. And I'm just restarting. I did all the same notes up here. So you can find every single note on the first 2 strings, and you're just going to find them repeating in other spots. And if you look at this chart here, this is a chart of all of the notes on the fretboard, and we can see them going up with each marking. You can see the sharps and the flat version. So the flat version of that same note, F to F sharp, is the same thing as G going back to G flat. That's what's called an enharmonic. So bemol would be flat, would be going backwards. It's lowering the pitch of a note. And sharp would be going up. That's what's called sostenido. F to F sharp, G to G flat. A to A sharp, B to B flat. That's the difference, but they're found on the same spot. So if you see something that tells you to play C bemol, go to C, go back to C bemol. If it says Do sostenido, go to Do, go up to Do sostenido. And you could see that right there on my chart, right there. So that's how we can learn how to find all of the notes just with our open strings. And it's gonna be the exact same for A. So I'm gonna switch to A tuning right now in the video, and I'm going to show you how those same notes are going to be in different spots. So F here on my first line or my first fret of my E string is actually going to be a different spot in A tuning, and I'll show that right now. Alright, and here are my new strings that I just switched on. These are the Prado contrabajo black nylon entorchada strings. They're supposed to be tuned in La, so they're tuned on the package as it says. The first string is supposed to be Do, then Sol, then Re, then La. And so what's happening here is these 3 strings from the other tuning are coming up a string, and we're getting a Do at the high string instead of Sol. It's the exact same orientation as you can see over here. Same exact pattern of notes. If you know the order of the tonos and you know your open strings, you can figure it out really easily. But like I said, Fa on my first fret was Fa here, but now we see that that's La sostenido. That's because my open string is now a La, as you can see here. My second string is a Re, my third string is Sol, and my fourth string is Do. Alright? And so Fa now is going to be on this string, on the Re string, Re sostenido, Mi. Fa is now where we used to play Do in the other tuning. Where we used to have Fa is now Si bemol. Do is now where we used to play Sol. And the open Mi string, what it used to be, is now the open La string. So what we played with open Mi is now La. What we play with open La is now Re. And so everything is going to shift a little bit. It's the same exact patterns, the same exact shapes, work the same way. All of that because it's tuned in fourths. La to Re, Re to Sol, and Sol to Do. They're all a fourth apart. And so these are a little too tight for my liking. Tuning all the way up to La, this note is the lowest note I can get, and it's too high pitched for a bajo. I want it to be a lot lower, and the tension is really high on these. So I really want to tune it down to Mi and see how that feels. It's going to be a lot looser. The bass is going to sound a lot deeper, and hopefully it's going to be a lot more comfortable to play, because I'm struggling to slap this thing. Like, I'm smacking down really hard. The last string, or the second string, which is now red, does not hit the diapason no matter how hard I hit it. The only one that will click will actually be the last string. So I can't slap over here. It's really tough. So I'm going to tune it down, and hopefully that's going to be a bit better. But as you can see, it's the exact same thing. So there you go. All right, so we got the basics laid out for how to start marking our fretboard so that we can see where those tonos are found and where we find our root notes. Finding the root notes to play along with any song or any chord, any other person, is the most important part on bass or on any instrument. Because once you find a root note, from that root note you can play your universal shapes and patterns, and you can play all of your escalas on those root notes, and they're going to be the exact same for every single tono. It's not going to matter which tono you start on, those shapes are going to work. The only ones that will be different are the open escalas, where we use the open strings, because not every key has the same combination of notes in it, and not every note is found on a certain spot here, like on the 3rd fret, on the 1st fret. F is only found here, E is open, so that shape's going to be different. We'll get to that, but if you can find your root notes, you can play anything that you learn on that root note in any key for whatever tono. So let's see how we do that. The number one thing that you want to get down when it comes to playing Tololoche is finding the root and finding the 2 ways that we can play the 5th. The 5th is taking the 5th note of the major scale of that root. Whatever note we're playing, whatever chord we're trying to play, when we play a note like C or Do in Spanish, we're going to play the 5th of the scale of Do. Now you can count up 5 letters: Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol. So Do, its 5th is Sol. And the way that that's laid out and the way that we find the 5th of any note on this type of instrument is that it's usually going to be right above it, if there's a string to go above it. If there's not, it's always going to be 2 frets away and 1 string down. So if we go from Do, we're going to go up 2 frets or 2 lines and down a string. And that's going to give us a Sol or a G. And as you can see right here, this is a G, and the one above it is also a G. And that introduces us to another concept, which is called the octave. The octave of any note is the same note, just either a higher or a lower version of it. So if we want to find any note in another spot, we just got to go 2 frets and 2 strings. 2 frets and 2 strings away will get us the exact same note. That's the octave. We have a C, the high version of it, and the low version of it. So 2 frets and 2 strings, that's what helps us to understand that the 5th can be 2 frets and a string down, but also right above our root. Same note, right? So when you can understand that relationship, all you have to do is find any root note for a song, for a chord, whatever's playing, and then play the root and the 5th. At the basic level, that's all you need. Root and 5th. And because on Tololoche our spaces are usually pretty far apart, I like to stretch to the 5th with my pinky. If you want, you can stretch with your ring finger, but as you can see, my wrist kind of has to go a little farther out to do that. And you want to try to keep your thumb somewhat in the middle of the neck, or gripping it with your wrist if possible. And so if you can stretch with your pinky, it makes it a little bit easier for you to hold the note. So you want to practice that first of all. The easiest thing to do is just to go up. So if you want to find any place you can play a root note, you start on that, then just go up. And then once you get really comfortable with that, then you can try to stretch to the higher 5th. And as you can see with my right hand, what we want to do on Tololoche is we want to smack the diapason when we want to slap. We're just going to hit it, click it against the fretboard, and we're also going to hook the strings with our fingers and pull it up so that once it bounces back, it's going to also slap. So you're going to try, I like to use my hand in kind of like an arch, and I like to smack it with all of my fingers and then arch my finger usually my middle finger, on the string I'm targeting. So to get used to that, keep your hand in a curved palm and go down each string. Pluck, down, pluck, down, pluck, hit, pluck, hit, pluck, hit. And land with your middle finger on the string you want to get to. And it's really important to learn that relationship of going down each string and back up, because that's a really popular rhythm that we do a lot depending on what songs we're playing. But right now I'm just muting it. You don't have to hold anything. Just get really used to hitting and plucking. And in between is where we're going to have all of our extra slaps. Hit, pluck, pluck. Or sorry, pluck, hit, hit, pluck, hit, hit, pluck. That's the foundation for playing Tololoche. You play the root, hit, hit, and pluck the fifth. And right there you got a basic groove. And as you can see, when I walk down from the root to the fifth, down to the octave, and back up, that's what gives you that really foundational and fundamental Tololoche sound. But you can mix it up by doing the lower fifth, go back and forth. And then when we're going to switch to another chord, we do the exact same thing. So say we're going to go up to G now. That's what you got to do and start to get used to. And that's going to allow you to play along with any song that you want, as long as you can contextualize and find those root notes and follow along with the correct time signature. That's what we're going to have to get into after. But let's further talk about this relationship, because there's another way that we can play certain notes that we want to be aware of as well. And so that's the open strings. When we play an open string, like E, for example, or Mi, how are we going to play the string above it? There's no string above it, right? So the only option is to play our fifth. And remember, it's always 2 frets away and a string down. So if my open string is open, that means that it's the fret 0. So to go 2 frets away, I got to go to the 2nd fret. So I go to the 2nd fret and down a string, and there's my fifth. The fifth of E is B. E, F, G, A, B. 5 notes. So that's my fifth. That's right. And it's the open A string, right? So A sharp, B. There it is. To play E, we want to play the open E string, then the 2nd fret with our finger, and the octave is always 2 frets and 2 strings. So it's going to be on the next string down. Same exact fret. 2 frets, 2 strings, and because it's the D string, we have open D. 1st fret is D sharp. So the 2nd fret is E. And right there, that's one of the spots where we can play what we just learned. The root and the fifth right above it. You see how it's right there above it? And it can also be found 2 frets away. There's our octave, 2 frets and 2 strings. Do you see how that's working out? And that's going to be the exact same thing for A. We're going to play open A, go down to the 2nd fret on that next string down, and the octave. Same thing, open G, G sharp, A. The cool thing about the A, D, and G strings are that you can actually play the open string right above it to play your fifth in a lower way too. So A, what's the fifth of A? A, B, C, D, E, it's E. And we saw that here, right? A, D, sharp, E. So A, E, that's our fifth right there. And where else can we play an E? The open E string. So for A, you can just play the open A string, no fretting anything, and then the open E string. You just want to try to contain the vibration of it. That's how you can play A. If you don't even want to fret anything, you can do that. Same thing for D. What's the fifth of D? Count up 5 letters. D, E, F, G, A. That's the fifth. D, A. D, A. And so in a lot of different keys, once we start learning primera, segunda, and tercera, you can start to see how we can use those, especially in a key like A. If we start on A, we're on primera, and we'll explain this more right now. To go to segunda, you'd go to E, and D is tercera, so you just play D, A, E, back to A. Playing an A in this kind of tuning is really easy, and it makes it so that you don't have to fret too many notes. But that's how the open strings work. Just remember 2 frets and 2 strings for the octave, 2 frets and 1 string to find the fifth anywhere, or just right above your root if there's a string. With that in mind, you can start to learn different slap patterns. You can start to follow along with different songs that have different cambios and more tonos. And then you can start to see all the different spots that you can play those tonos, because there's at least 2 or 3 spots you can play them, but some will be more ideal than others, as we saw. Some tonos are on a really high pitched note, and if you don't want to play that high pitched note, and it's harder to slap the higher strings, at least on my tolo, some people's might be different, but if I want to play like a G sharp, I can't really play it here on the 1st fret. It doesn't sound too good. I'd rather just play it on the 4th fret. So that right there is how you can start playing along with any song on Tololoche just by learning those first few things. Learn the order of the tonos, learn how to find any root note, and then play the 5th of that root note and start getting the hang of the slap pattern. The pluck, hit, pluck, or pluck, hit, pluck, or however many hits you want to throw in there, as long as you follow along with the time signature, which we are going to demonstrate right now. So now we're going to take a look at the meter. We're going to talk about time signatures, ritmos, different types of rhythms that we're going to have in different songs. The most common ones are 2/4, 3/4, and 6/8, dos cuartos, tres cuartos, or seis octavos. And what those numbers refer to are the amount of notes that we're going to get in each measure. In each compás is what it's called in Spanish. Basically like a sentence, a whole acorde that usually takes a measure. Boom, pop, pop, or boom, pop, boom, pop. That's a measure each time. 1, 2, 1, 2. In dos cuartos, we get 2 beats of quarter notes. And that's what we see here on this metronome. We see the visual representation of 2 notes per beat. On guitar, it would be bajeo, strum, bajeo, strum, bajeo, strum. For us, it's going to be the root note, pluck, hit, pluck, hit, pluck, hit, pluck, pluck, hit, pluck. That's usually what we're going to do for dos cuartos. On that 2, you can also do 2 hits instead. Instead of pluck, hit, pluck, you can do pluck, hit, pluck, hit, pluck, hit, pluck. Basically, our root notes and our quinto grado, our 5th, that bajeo secundario, is usually going to go on the 1 in dos cuartos and on tres cuartos. And each time we do another compás, it's going to switch to the next note. So our bajeo is in one measure, then the hit on the 2, and then our next bajeo, our next 5th, is going to be on the next measure, on the next compás, and then another hit, then come back. And that's 2 beats of quarter notes, right? But those quarter notes can be subdivided into any more notes. And so 1 quarter note can turn into 2 eighth notes. So in 2/4, since we have 2 quarter notes, we actually can fit 4 eighth notes into each click, right? Or 2 eighth notes into each click, which gives us 4 eighth notes total before we restart. I'll show here on the diagram over here. I'll overlay on it how we can break that up and see it visually. And then I'll also put the pluck and the hits that we can do. The pluck hit and the pluck hit, and anything else that you can fit in there. But one way to think about it too is to think about it and how we can count it. Instead of 1, 2, 1, 2, we can have 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So pluck, hit would be 1 and hit on the 2 and. 1 and 2 and. It would be 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. That's how we can understand 2/4. And when we play it with the clicks, we just have to line up our 1 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. One more time. 1 on that 2, we're going to do 2 clicks. Instead of just 1 hit, we're going to do 2 hits for those 2 eighth notes. We'll pluck the 1 for the 1 count, for the 1 and on the 2 and, we do our hit. Hit, hit, pluck, hit, hit, pluck, hit, hit, pluck, hit, hit, pluck. That's the basic rhythm we can do in dos cuartos. For something like a norteña, that would be really good. If it's slow, if it's fast, it doesn't matter. You can add a bunch of different adornos and stuff in there. You just want to try to land back on the 1, because the bass is usually playing the root note. They're playing on the 1, and the bajo quinto is going to play on the 2. Instead of boom, pa, boom, pa. It'll be us doing the boom, and the bajo quinto will do the pa, 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 pa. They usually just do the upstrums, right? So that's how it would work. In tres cuartos, it's going to be very similar. We're just going to have an extra note in there. So now we have 3 beats of quarter notes, and that's just 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And we can pluck on the 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And usually on the 3s where we're gonna have that hit. 1, 2, hit, 1, 2, hit, 1, 2, hit, 1, 2, hit, 1. Or the hit hit, right? 1, 2, hit, hit, 1, 2, hit, hit, 1, 2, 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. That would subdivide it to give us extra notes to hit. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. That's how we can do it for 3/4. So that's just the biggest difference there. And once we get to 6/8 or 6 octavos, we're going to switch from quarter notes now to eighth notes. We have 6 beats of eighth notes in 6 octavos. So with 6 beats of 8 notes, instead of in dos cuartos and tres cuartos where we have the root in its own measure, 1, 2, then the bajeo gets another measure. In 6 octavos, the bajeo is going to be inside the whole first measure. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're going to pluck on the 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, hit, hit. On the 5, pluck. On the 6, hit, hit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or on the 4 is going to be our hit, pluck, hit, hit, pluck, hit, hit, pluck. That's usually how it's going to go for 6 octavos. I'm going to also put it on an overlay here so you can see it over it. But that's usually one of the most common rhythms that we have in 6 octavos. As long as you remember, on the 1, we're going to play our root. And usually, we're going to have our bajeo secundario, or the 5th, on the 5 count. Then we're going to have almost always, in pretty much any rasgueo, in any type of time signature for Tololoche, our hit's going to come right before our next root. So it's going to happen at the 6, at the end of the measure. So with the metronome, let's try and break it down. 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, hit, hit, pluck, hit, 1, 2, 3, hit, hit, pluck, hit, hit, 1. Any way that you want to do it, you can break down those 8th notes to 16th notes as well, and that's where we get people doing really fast slaps. But as long as you understand that we want to get the 1 to be our root, and we want to play our bajeo secundario inside that count before we go back. That's the biggest thing. I would play it along with the song, but I don't want to get a copyright on here, and so I'll probably make another video where I do it along with a looper pedal, but I just want to get the basics down so you guys can understand it. Try to follow it, try to break it down, and try to see if you can hear it in other songs and how it's being played. And like I said, I'll make another video on that. But that's basically how we do different slap patterns. And so, like I said, you really want to get used to the pluck, hit, hit, pluck. Aim with your finger to the string you're going to go to next. Usually pluck, hit, hit, pluck is going to get you by. You can always just pluck, hit, one single hit, and that's going to give it a nice chiller feel. But depending on what you're playing, depending on what you want to do, that's kind of to get you in the direction. So just a quick recap: the open strings, we have E, A, D, G, or A, D, G, C, or whatever you want to tune it to. Some people will tune it to F, B flat, E flat. Some people do weird tunings to fit whatever they're playing with to make it easier to play certain shapes. But whatever your strings are tuned to, each fret's going to take you a half step up. You remember the chart, you can go back and look at it to find your tonos. Find a tono. The fifth is always right above it, or 2 frets and 1 string down, 2 frets or 2 spaces away. And the octave is always 2 frets and 2 strings away. That's going to help you to find any note. All you got to do is play the root, the fifth, and the octave. You don't have to play the octave, but you can. Root and fifth is all you need. I'll make some more videos explaining some more advanced stuff like arpeggios for major and minor. I'll do a video for the open escalas too, and how we can do that for different tonos. But this will get you guys in the direction to start learning, to start following along, looking at what other people are doing and start dissecting how they're playing. Follow along, take inspiration, and that should get your foot in the door. If you guys have any questions, let me know. This is pretty much the basics, everything that I can include. Any specific questions about anything or any videos you want me to make about, I got you. I'm going to do bajo quinto next. I'm going to do a video on bajo loche as well that kind of covers the same ideas, bajo eléctrico, and then some more requinto stuff as well. So stay tuned for that. Appreciate the support and have a good one.